Admiral Mike Mullen is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He is the highest-ranking officer in the United States Armed Forces.
I've been serving with gays and lesbians my whole career. I went to war with them aboard a destroyer off the coast of Vietnam. I knew they were there. They knew I knew it. And what's more, nearly everyone in the crew knew it. We never missed a mission, never failed to deliver ordnance on target. Readiness was not impaired. What mattered most, what made us a crew, was teamwork and focus on our combat mission. And let me be clear, nothing will change about our standards of conduct. Nothing will change about the dignity and the fairness and the equality with which we treat our people. And nothing will change about the manner in which we deal with those who cannot abide by these standards. The military is a meritocracy, where success is based on what you do, not who you are. There are no special classes, no favored groups. We may wear different uniforms, but we are one. There are some for whom this debate is all about gray areas. There is no gray area here. We treat each other with respect, or we find another place to work, period. In the long run, repeal of this law makes us a stronger military and improves our readiness. It will make us more representative of the country we serve. It will restore to the institution the energy it must now expend in pursuing those who violate the policy. And it will better align those organizational values we claim with those we practice. This is about integrity. Our people sacrifice a lot for their country, including their lives. None of them should have to sacrifice their integrity as well. It is true there is no constitutional right to serve in the armed forces, but the military serves all the people of this country, no matter who they are or what they believe. And every one of those people, should they be fit and able, ought to be given the opportunity to defend it.
Joining us now for the interview is a currently serving active duty officer in the United States military. I will not tell you the branch in which he serves. I will not tell you his name, and we have otherwise shielded his identity by necessity. He uses the pseudonym J.D. Smith. He has become the spokesman for an underground network of active duty troops who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender, a group known as Outserve. J.D. Smith, thank you for being willing to do this interview tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Why is it worth it to you to take the risk to speak out like this and to do the work that you have done with Outserve?
I think why it's important for me is that at some point, while you're serving under the military and under this policy, you see some of the atrocities that occur to people across the world, including myself, who is blackmailed under this policy. And at some point, you have to see that there's something larger than yourself out there, and you have to take these risks to do something like this to help others and to help create the change that's needed.
One of the things that was discussed today, particularly by Senator Lindsey Graham, was that he emphasized at this hearing today that the military's current application of Don't Ask, Don't Tell is somewhat kinder and gentler, essentially claiming that the days of the witch hunts are over. You just said that you feel that you have been blackmailed under this policy. Does the way that Lindsey Graham talked about this policy today comport with your own experience and the experience of other members of Outserve?
Absolutely not. With our network, we're able to monitor what's going on across units, across the whole military. And what we're seeing across the military is that commanders are not doing a gentler, kinder military. What they're doing is sometimes coming up with something more creative, such as removing someone from a unit or punishing them that way. Again, they're not issues peer-to-peer as far as the younger generation goes with troops on the ground. It's an older leadership that's the issue.
What about the emphasis today, pursuant to the Department of Defense report on the Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal? The emphasis that was put today on opponents of repeal, on members of combat units, frontline combat unit, combat arms group, and the Marine Corps in particular being more resistant to the prospect of repeal than other aspects of the military. That wouldn't be a generational factor. Those would be largely younger troops.
I think what was really important to notice in that report are two things. The first thing is the fact that 92% of people that knew someone in their unit that was gay and lesbian, they were more comfortable with the fact of people serving openly in their unit and were okay with it. The second important thing that was brought up in the hearings was the fact that people that were actually serving in combat were the ones more comfortable with gays and lesbians serving openly than the combat arms that were actually not in combat at the time, which is a really interesting note to note.
What was the goal of forming an underground secret network of active duty personnel who are LGBT? What's the mission of Outserve?
Originally, we formed back in July because we thought that the policy was going away. It looked like it was going away back then to actually go away next year. And so we wanted to create a peer network that could be supportive to active duty gay and lesbian troops post-repeal. A lot of these organizations exist in the DoD right now, but that was our original goal, was to exist post-repeal. But right now we're seeing that we can get out a lot of information telling the truth about this policy and what is actually happening to people on the ground.
The Defense Department report on repealing the policy went into great detail about the care they took to seek out the opinions of gay service members, despite the inherent logistical difficulty of trying to identify people who can be fired for being identified. As an active duty officer yourself, as a gay man, do you think that the report broadly got it right?
I do think they broadly got it right. I think the Pentagon Working Group did an amazing job in actually taking the time to talk to active duty service members to find out what they thought about the policy and how the policy is happening, as well as gay and lesbian troops. They actually reached out through the RAND survey and other methods to actually talk to soldiers on the ground. So I think the Pentagon Working Group did an amazing job.
The active duty U.S. military officer using the pseudonym J.D. Smith, founder of the group Outserve, which is an underground network of LGBT active duty service members. Thank you, sir, for your time and your service and your trust in joining us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.